Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to another episode. Today we're going to be making more progress on our mighty fine coupe. You've probably seen the last one. We got the subframe stripped apart and that's now gone off to the powder coaters, so that will be back in a few days. We're not in a mad rush for that, but yeah. What we're going to get on with today is fixing a super common problem, which is your rusty trailing arm pockets. So let me just show you mine. This is pretty common these days. Most 36s will suffer from it. If it hasn't got it, then it's, you know, a bit of a rare car, because they all love to rot up here. So obviously still got lots of welding to the seals and stuff to do in the jacking points, but first thing to tackle is this trailing arm pocket. So I mean, it looks, from a distance you might say it looks solid, but it's not, it's rotten. As soon as you start poking that with a screwdriver, it's going to fall to bits. In fact, hold my beer, so without too much jiggery pokery. I mean, to be fair, that's holding up to the screwdriver test, but all of that metal is massively pitted, and no amount of wire wheeling is going to stop that rot from spreading. So best course of action is to cut it out. So we'll get to that in a moment. Before we cut that out, we need to take the fuel tank out, and we have a few other bits and pieces to do in preparation. So anyway, that's a job for in a moment. What I want to get started with before we dig into this is show the kit itself that we're going to be welding in. So you used to be able to buy Z4 trailing arm pockets, and it was a good cheap way of repairing your damaged pocket. However, BMW have had them on back order now for about a year or something like that. So essentially the only option is to make something yourself or to buy a kit. Here's one of my kits. So this is if you buy it online, I'll drop a link in the description. This is how it arrived here. You've got the actual flat plate of the floor around the pocket with a bit of reinforcement, and then you've got the cup itself, which is flat packed, but obviously bend, weld, and then it's supplied with bolts and collars. So we're gonna, to start off with, there's not much point getting the car prepped because all this will need to be welded together, and then I don't fancy trying to weld it in the car whilst it's a million degrees. So we're going to get set up first. We'll time lapse this, get this welded together, and then once they're done, we can chuck some primer on them, and then we can get into ripping the car apart. So we've got to take the fuel tank out, cut the pocket out. I'll show you where to cut that. It's not overly critical, but cut it out, prep it, and then we get it welded in. Whilst we're in there, we may as well weld in some subframe reinforcements. So that's these plates. Again, these are my own kit, available online. I'll pop a link to them on the website as well, but yeah, we may as well put them in. Some might say, is it worth it on a road car? It depends how you're going to drive a car. Look, whilst we're in there, I've got a welder, why wouldn't I put them in? So we're going to be welding those in. This is an absolute must though, because the pockets are pretty shot. They're not the worst pockets I've ever seen, but they're definitely on their way. So look, we've got the frame up, we may as well do it. So let's get on with it. I'll set you up on a time lapse and we'll get this smashed out. Right, we've got our little fab station set up. So first thing you got to do is fold these plates. So we're basically going to bend this along these lines and make a cup, and then once it's in the right sort of shape, we can check size wise against this base plate, and then weld these sides into that, and then once we're happy with that whole cup can then be welded to the base plate, and then we'll weld our collars on last. So we'll get you set up, we're going to time lapse this bit and smash through it. So once you've got your cup roughly folded like that, you can then butt this piece so it's level with this front edge into there, and stick a tack on either corner here and down here, and then you can fold these other side pieces into it nice and tight. like so. And then that's that side of the cut made, and then add this piece of that side. Right, and then that's the cup tacked together. Obviously all these bend holes we need to fill in with a bit of weld, but we can now check the fitment against the base plate. So that's then welded in nicely, or tack weld I should say, and now we can seam weld it. Just be careful not to put a weld where the collars are going to go, because you don't want the collar to sit you know, anything other than completely flat with this base plate. So actually I'd probably recommend welding the collar in next. So there's our collars. Now if we use the bolt that's supplied with them, we can hold it in place quite nicely. And obviously you want to make sure that you centralise the bolt to this hole where possible. Right, so now that's all tacked together. Okay, so there's our base plate welded, collars all welded. Right, there we go, there's our pocket all welded up. It's pretty hot to touch at the moment, but yeah. Let that cool down, quick wire wheel, clean up the slag, and get some decent primer on it, and she's done. So that's one side done. Obviously we need to rinse and repeat on the other side, so I'm not going to show you that because it's a carbon copy of that, but yeah, that's how you do that first one. Right, there's our pockets all cleaned up, primed, so they're good, ready to go in the car. So now we need to tackle the actual underside to get the car ready, or relatively ready, in a state where we can actually get these pockets cut out. So if you look here, you'll see the pocket itself is pretty short. So what we will do is we'll cut round here, blah 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 blah, and basically pull out the pocket, and hopefully the rot hasn't spread too much further and we don't have to disturb too much. When you cut this out, there is a seam that's welded up in here as well. So best thing to do is just chuck your grinder either side of it, and then once the pocket's out of the way, you can clean it up and trim it back. But before we do that, there's a couple of little bits we need to get stripped off. This fuel tank needs to come out. Obviously it's a fire hazard at the best of times, but the trailing arm kit, we're going to be cutting right on this edge, and then the kit actually welds up onto this top edge to add some additional bracing to the pocket. Obviously you'd never get your welder up in there or anything like that, so unfortunately tanks got to come out. They're a bit of a pain in the arse if I'm honest, but it's not the end of the world. We're going to be under sealing and stuff under here, so we may as well just do it all in one hit. So first thing to do, you've got the 3 hangers, 1, 2, a third one over there. So we're going to pop those off. They're 13mm bolts, and then once that's out, the whole thing should drop down. I don't think we need to take the prop and exhaust off. From memory we can just slide it over because it gets real skinny here. We can pull that down, and then there's an assortment of hoses and stuff in the driver's side that we need to unclip, so I'll get smashed through that and get this tank out of the way. Here goes our first one. These can rot quite badly. They usually get weak along here. So like this one, yeah, it's pretty shot. So ready for the bin. We've got some new ones of these to go on, or ones that I've had powder coated. Just remember, obviously you need to replace the foam that's on them, so like a double-sided foam, just so it doesn't rub through the tank. You've also got these little handbrake brackets. These are always like paper thin. They're probably just mild steel, so we'll get new ones of those from the dealer, so they need to come off as well. That's when we weld in our reinforcements. But yeah, let's get rid of them. So we've got to pop this off. This is our filler net. Alright, let's try again with a 6mm socket. Okay, so now at that stage we can smell fuel, obviously. There's the couple of electrical connections to disconnect. Be careful you don't stretch these wires, so you want to do this first. And there'll be one that side for the fuel pump, and this side for the, I can't remember what this side does. But yeah, there's 2 of them, so let's unclip those. You've then got a couple of fuel hoses that go run down from the tank. So they are here. I would undo those from there now. And then that's the left hand side of the tank completely free. And then if you come to the right hand side, there's about 4 or 5 different hoses up there. So you need to try and disconnect some of those, not all of them, because some of them just loop to the other side of the tank. So if you're careful, they've got these metal clips on, so you just want to free them off. Pair of snips or whatever tool you want to use. Right, you join me a few moments on, so our tank's out. It's down on the ground there. What I've done with most of these hoses, this big one, just basically bust the clip off. Obviously that's going to go in the bin. These smaller ones, I just cut through the hose with a pair of tin snips. There's no fuel in these ones, just vapour I think. But what I'm going to do is, it goes to a plastic fitting on the tank. So both ends of this line will get cut off and binned and replaced with a fresh bit of rubber hose and a Jubilee clip either end, or some sort of circlip. So that's sorted. So tank's up out the way. So all of those are now safely tucked up there. Not going to cause any harm. So the tank did lift over the prop with the prop and the exhaust in place. Obviously this exhaust shield looks a bit sorry for itself, probably gonna have to replace that at some point. So tank can go out and get rid of that. That we can clean off with a pressure washer. So now we can crack on with actually cutting out our pockets and our welding in our subframe reinforcement plates. So I've still got to deal with these. These bolts are no longer bolts, they're just blobs of metal, so I'm probably gonna have to cut those off, but that's fine. So yeah, and also just a word of warning, you see guys go, oh, I'm just going to underseal my car because it's a bit rusty. There's no point. If you underseal over rust, like someone's done here, all that happens is you then create a moisture trap between the rust and the underseal. So then it eventually just falls off anyway. So this isn't a proper repair. You've got to get rid of the rust to do it properly. Anyway, so that's where we are, and yeah, now let's get on to some cutting out action with the grinder and starting to prep up these plates. Okay, so now our fuel tank is out the way. I'll show you what I've done with that actually. So basically just sealed up the bits and pieces where fuel or water could mix, which I don't want that to happen, and then just pressure washed it, and that's brought it up lovely. I could probably sit there with a brush and make it look a little bit better if I really wanted to, because some of this is a bit more stubborn. But essentially, quick 5 minutes with a pressure washer, and that's taken off most of the crud and dirt. So that's lovely, that looks all good. So now, obviously we're going to replace this whole pocket. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut this. We're going to try not to go through both of these layers. We want to leave this inside skin. So there's some spot welds along here we can drill out. Then we're going to cut nice and tight to all these bolt holes essentially, and keep most of the inner structure there. We just basically want to remove this pocket. So we will, I'll get that cut out and I'll show you as best I can on the camera. And up inside this pocket there's a small part which is seam welded to some sort of tab inside the car. Now that can be really tricky to remove. If your pockets are actually rotted through, it's dead easy. If they're like this where they're still relatively solid, then it's tricky. But what you can do is, if you can see the spot weld or where it's been welded, you can attack it with the spot weld bit, or just chuck your grinder straight up in this hole once you start cutting the pocket apart, and you'll see it will start to fold in on itself. So they can be tricky. When they're more rotten, they come out a lot easier. When they're like this, it's a bit harder. So yeah, just persist with it. Anyway, let's get this cut out. I'll set you up and time lapse it. Right, so that's pretty much how you want to cut it. So nice and tight to this edge here, follow this edge around, don't cut into the inner wing too much, inner seal, and then a straight edge here, cut across here. And that's basically the smallest amount we can physically remove from the pocket to then extract that. We'll then have some extra metal we can then pull out. There's be some spot welds in here, so we can pull this piece off, but we don't want to go any further. We'll leave this whatever strength is there. On this side will pull off lovely. There'll be a lip on this bottom edge which is spot welded to the inner seal. Again, we can pick that off in a moment with a spot weld drill bit and eliminate this sort of rusty bit of metal. But yeah, next up I'd get a chisel and I'd start attacking this and start trying to get it free. As I say, there's a seam in here somewhere, so we'll have to fight that off. If you can, once your grinder disc has sort of shrunk a bit, you can then sort of get it in there like that, do a few upwards cuts in different directions, and you'll start to cut through it and sort of break that metal up, and then be able to pull it off. So yeah, just attack it now basically to get it out. Once all these edges are through, it should fall out quite easily. Just remember that obviously we've not gone all the way through on this piece, so you need to carefully cut that just deep enough so it splits from this metal, but you know, it doesn't cut through the inner skin, because you want to leave that and make that as strong as possible. Sort of see what I'm up to here. So you just got to sort of attack it, cut bits of it out, and you can start to fold it in on itself and it will start to come out, and it's pretty free. I'm not going to bore you to death with loads of footage of me getting it out, but essentially once you've cut the outer perimeter, it'll just be dangling by a sort of seam that's been welded inside, as I've mentioned already. So we just got to get it free from that. So if you've got a Dremel or something like that, you could probably cut a square out of it and drop it. That'd be the quickest way. But yeah, I'll just go brute force, beat it out with a hammer and a chisel. So yeah, that's my method. Alright, so that's the hole that we're left with. So we just zip round here and then basically attack the pocket. This one's actually not that bad. You probably could have left it in there for a few more years, but look, we're in here, let's do it. So you can see I've just cut it into multiple bits with a grinder, slit the hell out of it, and then you sort of fold it in on itself. It's attached up here to the seatbelt anchor point, so it can be quite tricky to remove because it's not spot weld, it's actually got a seam weld in there somehow. Just to clean it up, what I do is just run a grinder along that line there, just to get rid of this grotty bit, and then that's fine. So then we're left with that. Now if it's a drift car, you can basically just weld your new plate in. I'm going for a slightly cleaner install. So there's this seam which was part of the original pocket, which I've just removed the spot welds and cut off, so that's out of the way. And we've got the same on this inside edge here again. So get the chisel in there, open it up, and then there'll just be 3 or 4 spot welds. We might have to replace a bit of metal here, depends how thin this is. I haven't wire wheeled it yet, but we'll have a look at it in a moment. But yeah, we're gonna pull this seam off here, and then we'll be ready to weld in our new pocket. Before we weld it in, obviously put it there, gauge the size. You'll need to wire wheel a lot of this material here, same down here, and then up and around here, because the pocket adds a lot of reinforcement. So we're going to go right up to these edges. So yeah, need to get on the knot wheel and clean it up in a moment. But yeah, I'm just going to finish off pulling this piece off here. Right, I'm filthy. Join me about, I don't know, an hour and a half later, something like that, probably about an hour later. I've just been prepping the pocket. Look how filthy I am, wow. Just been prepping the pocket and the subframe mounts. So I will... So there's still a lot of work to do under here, but you can see what I've done. So I've pulled off spot welded bits there and there, so that's now so you can see I pulled off the bit that was spot welded here and here, so that's now ready to be welded flush to that. Wire wheeled all around here, right up around here, because it gets welded onto this, and then cleared back right on this piece up here. And then once you've got the actual pocket sits in there like so, like that, nice and flat and butted up. So we'll chuck a couple of tacks in, and then yeah, we can once it's tacked in place, fold these tabs over, same on the back, and then yeah, get it seam welded in, spot weld where possible on these inner pieces. But yeah, so that's trailing arm pocket. Whilst we're under here, I've also been prepping the subframe mounting points. So you've got 2 of these per side, or one front and back. So this is the front one. So that's been wire wheeled. Obviously still lots of cleaning around back that needs doing. And then there's this rear one. Again, the surrounding area needs a lot of cleaning, wire wheeling still. But whilst I've got the welder fired up, we're going to get the reinforcements welded in. Just to show you, that's what the mounts look like before we wire wheel them. So this car isn't the worst E36 out there, but there is a lot of rot on this rear end. If you look at this rear panel, you can see it's a bit like the E46, where obviously the subframe mounting point is all spot welded to the floor, etc. And the fact that these spot welds have rusted like this tells you that the spot weld is obviously under stress from the rear subframe. So luckily everything inside is still attached lovely and solid, and that's obviously why we're going to have reinforcements. But it just goes to show that left unchecked, eventually this could end up with the floor starting to tear open. You don't really see a lot on these E36s, but you know, it's definitely a possibility. Obviously I still want to be able to drive this car nice and hard once it's finished and back on the road, so that's why we're adding the reinforcements. But yeah, well worth keeping an eye on that. There's obviously a bit of movement in there which is allowing the spot weld to then swell out the rust to get to this stage. The whole mount is still lovely and solid, but inside it could be tearing apart. So yeah, it's critical to get all this welded in, reinforce this area, add some strength back to it, and yeah, good to go. Anyway, so we'll get the camera set up, we'll smash through welding all of this in. I've still got all that side to go, I haven't touched any of that, but I'll probably do that off camera. You don't want to see the same stuff all over again. But yeah, that's the first sort of, that's where we're up to next. Okay, so we're ready to weld. I've just sprayed on some U-Pol weld through primer, good stuff. Don't use any of the Halford shit. I've done the back of the plates and the mounts, and obviously up inside there. We're going to put these plates on first, and then we'll attack the pocket. A good little tip to hold these plates in place whilst you weld them in or get them tacked in is to get the stud that comes out the chassis. One one's bent, no good, but it will still hold the plate in position. Right, and that's our first one welded in. Not a bad job doing it on the floor. Would be much better on a ramp, but you know, happy with that. So smash up this rear one next. Then we can do the same trick and use this stud to get the plate held in place. Well, last piece of the puzzle for this video is getting this pocket in. So, because we're doing this on the floor, I'm not sure how well we're going to see this because I need to get in where it is, but you know, we'll try. Right, so that's it tacked in place. Now we can run seam a weld, and then we'll fold these tabs over. Right, and there we go. That's our first pocket welded in. A couple of little bits I need to tidy up, flat back some of these bits so we don't interrupt our toe adjustment, etc. But yeah, that's the kit welded in. Obviously it comes right up around here on the back side as well, so make sure you wire wheel all that off before you get it welded in. And yeah, so we'll let that cool down. Probably gonna take a good half hour or so. You put a lot of heat into that metal. But yeah, now we've got a lovely solid trailing arm pocket, so not too bad, as well as our lovely little subframe reinforcements. So we've still got the same to do on the other side. I'm not going to video that because frankly you've seen this side, the other side is exactly the same. And then it's going to be a marathon of cleaning and pulling off rusty metal, you know, dodgy underseal. I'm not going to bare metal the whole thing because it just takes forever, and it's just not worth it in my opinion. But anywhere where there's like problem areas, where there's a bit of underseal that's broken, you know, if I can see any sort of rusty metal like there, then I'll get that wire wheeled, give it a treatment and reseal it. I don't want to go absolutely bonkers, you know, getting every single bit off, but equally there's no point doing a half-assed job because you'll only be back under here later down the line. So hence replacing these. I probably could have just wire wheeled the original pockets and just left it, but in reality if you're going to do it, just do it once, do it properly. So yeah, that's all sorted. Anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you again if you made it this far. Hopefully you can see how disgusting my face is now after laying on the floor, which is never ever fun when you do this kind of stuff, but it's a necessary evil when you're on a bit of a budget. Anyway, I'm not sure I'll do a full video of me wire wheeling the underside because it's just boring, tedious. Wow, my face is minging. But yeah, that's well underway. So we've still got to address this arch, probably cut this arch out, the sill. Still got to finish this off. I haven't really had a lot of time. Super busy building this engine for a friend. We've now got his E30 sat, engine bay needs paint and stuff like that. So yeah, we've been busy, but yeah, thank you for watching, and in the near future we'll hopefully get another video out, maybe once that underside is ready for a bit of Gravitex and sealer and we can start doing some nicer stuff. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.